We have the supreme pleasure. It's Phil Collen. How are you today, Phil?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Really good.
It's a real pleasure to be welcome to your home in beautiful Southern California. I know it's almost 20 years you've been living here.
Actually, 25.
Oh my gosh, it is 25.
Coming up to 26.
Oh, wow. It is amazing stuff. So you're from London.
Yeah.
And when you grew up, did you have any older brothers and sisters, or
Only child.
was it your parents?
Just only child.
How did you hear about music? How did you fall in love, and who were some of your first favorites?
My cousin, Dave Wheely, was 2 years older than me, and he was more than a connoisseur. He had everything. He had bootlegs. I always listened to the radio. It was everything from, Aretha Franklin, Beach Boys, the Beatles, obviously, the Who, the Stones, loved the Stones, all of that. But he said, check this out. And, he's playing me Hendrix, Zeppelin, Deep Purple. I went and he took me at the first concert, which was Purple at, it's called the Brixton Academy now. But
well, I think I've got the prop right
fantastic.
Here. I've heard a rumor that you're in the crowd.
I think that's my cousin. Oh, no, sorry, that is. Sorry, let's put it in the light there.
Sure.
I'm in here. My one's actually clearer than this, but I'm here somewhere. That's
wow.
Yeah,
you're right in front of Richie. I mean,
Well, that was it, and I reached out, touched him. He smashed the shit out of the guitar. And,
oh wow.
Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
That is great times. Made in Japan. I mean, what a time for music. I mean, Highway Star.
Well, that's what kicked it off. That's what made me play guitar.
Now, had you been to arena shows before? Was this the first one?
First concert, period.
First big show?
Yeah, first anything, yeah.
And of course, they say made in Japan, but we know that's made in Brixton right there.
Oh, absolutely, because you look at the crowd on the other side.
Yeah.
They're all non-Japanese.
Right.
Actually. And on the front, it actually looks like the rainbow, but I'm not sure about that. That could be something else, but it kind of looks like the Rainbow Theatre in Finsbury Park.
So I think we're safe to say that concert changed your life. I mean, blew your head off.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, Blackmore had so much soul, so much feeling.
Everything.
And then he had the dynamics. You see, he smashed up the guitar. And
technique, he had everything. And it was just like, the notes he played weren't standard. They weren't like all the other guys. And it was a different thing. So that kind of...
So were you already playing at that point?
No,
or that inspired you to start?
I didn't play for another 2 years. I was 14 then, and I kept pestering my mum and dad. And then on my 16th birthday, when I got this guitar album and a Gibson SG, 2 years of pestering, and I got this thing, and then then it was just like playing all the time. Yeah,
it's your best friend.
Yeah.
So now I know a lot of great, like with the chums, the mates in school, but then girl comes along, Phil Lewis, Simon,
right.
And Gary. Tell us about, Girl coming together, because you guys started making a lot of noise, got a deal with Jet Records, of course, which later put out the Ozzy Osbourne and all that stuff. Tell us about Girl.
I actually answered an ad in the Melody Maker, peroxide guitarist, I forget what the phrase was. So I went down there and I was in these glam bands. I was in a band called Dumb Blondes, and we were kind of post-punk. It was kind of New York Dolls kind of meets hard rock, and it was bits left over from Bowie and T-Rex, and it was kind of a blend, and there was this all this metal going off, that new wave of British heavy metal, and we came out at the same time as that didn't really go down well with that audience, but I met these guys, and they were exactly the same as I was, Phil and Jerry, and then we it was a concept really, and then we got going and we had fun. It was like, we're in London, it was like late 70s, 79 I think, and it was crazy. There was more chicks there than there were in Def Leppard. Yeah, way more. It was just a different, and there was way more. It was way more rock and roll, if you like. It was a little bit debauched, and at that time in London, it was wide open. There was still, like I said, it was post punk. Yeah. So there's still new wave bands, and there was like new hard rock, heavy metal stuff emerging. So and London's just killer. You could go and see. I'd seen Dire Straits opening up for Elvis Costello in a pub about as big as this. Yeah. So you'd see that. You'd see the Police and obviously all the other stuff, the Pistols and the Clash, and Generation X and all that stuff. So it was very fertile ground for kind of music, just all sorts of music and bands. And it's not like that anymore, obviously, but it was a really cool time and to be coming out with a band, and we were a bit different, and yeah, it was very, very exciting.
Now, Hollywood Tees was one of the big songs. Little did you know you'd be moving to LA. Tell us about, you know, that song and what that's about, and foreshadowing your residency here.
Right. It's about a Hollywood movie star having an affair with a young English boy, you know, and it's so that's really what it was about. We kind of made it. It was a very hard rock kind of song. We actually got on Top of the Pops with that. We actually, which was, you know, mind blowing. You know, there was something I used to. Top of the Pops was this TV show.
Who was on the show the time you were on?
I don't even remember. We've done it a bunch of times with Def Leppard, but you know, when I was a kid, you know, it was Bowie. It was T-Rex, it was Slade, it was all of that, and then all the pop stuff, you know, everything from, you know, Elton John, and that's where I first saw all these acts. So to get on there, you know, you had to be kind of top 40, so we had a single just went in the top 40 in Girl, and so that was really exciting. And there was this other TV show called Old Glow Whistle Test, which was a bit cooler. It was that you again, Bowie, I saw Bowie on there, but you'd have Humble Pie were on there. Wow. Alex Harvey Band, you know, people come over from the States. It would be like, you know, Curtis Mayfield. It was really diverse and an hour for one night a week. But it was,
you still see a lot of those videos on YouTube.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Great stuff. And Phil's still doing it. Can you believe LA Gun's still out there? Yeah. You run into Phil occasionally?
I haven't seen him for a while, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Now, obviously, Phil, Pete Willis gets a little nudge here, and bam, you're in Def Leppard. Tell us about, I know you were friends with Joe and Steve beforehand. Tell us about how that move happened.
I just came down to help out. You know, I spent some time at Joe's house. You know, I remember sleeping on his spare room. Actually, me and Phil was after a gig, a girl show in Sheffield, and they'd come down to London. You know, it's like different. It was kind of like going New York, Philly, if you could imagine that. It was kind of actually a little different to that, but it's more like going New York to, let me see,
Boston or DC.
Well, Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Pittsburgh is the twin city to Sheffield. So, and London is obviously like New York. Right. So, they would come down. They'd stay on my couch or on the floor, spare room, and that stuff. You know, when they're in London. So we just got to hang, and we knew each other. We played, we jammed, and everything. And Joe had asked me before, because Pete was having some difficulties on a tour, and there was just some stuff going down. He said, "You want to come down and help out if you learn some songs?" I said, "Yeah, sure." But that didn't happen. And later on, it was just helping out on this record, and it was just to play lead guitar and solos and sing.
This was Pyromania?
Yeah. So I didn't know that, you know. I came in, played stage fright, a one taker, and then we done Photograph, and then Mutt said, "Okay, get Fool in," and all Rock of Ages, solo lead. He said, "Just play lead, play licks," and so I was having a blast, you know.
So at this point, you're just helping. You're not a member.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not even.
And then that was it. And all of a sudden, we went on tour, and I actually wasn't asked to join. We actually went on tour, and the album just blew up. Yeah. And that was it for the next 9 months. We were out there just constantly touring, and we went from, first gig was the Marquee Club in London, and we finished at Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego, 55,000 people. So that trajectory, it was 500 people to 55,000 in 9 months, which is amazing.
And obviously MTV was just on fire. MTV was really rolling out, and the sound, the look, I mean, couldn't have been better timing for Photograph.
Absolutely. I mean, that was everything, really. You know, a lot of artists and bands didn't want to do that. They were just concerned about the music and the radio and all that stuff. We just embraced it. You know, we looked young. We looked different from a lot of these other rock bands, and it was just the right time. It was just perfect. You know, couldn't have planned it if we'd have tried. You know.
Exactly. Now, it's been an amazing run. You know, obviously with Hysteria and Adrenalize and all the songs, you know, you've written in the world tours, of course. But losing Steve, you know, I know Steve was a great mate. He was your the Terror Twins, you know. Talk about you know, the devastating, you know, loss of that, how you recovered and how you guys have even gotten bigger and better since then.
Right, you know, he was my best friend, and it was just, we knew that was going to happen, and he did as well. It was like, it's just that, you know, slippery slope that alcohol can, you know, it's a kind of a really dangerous drug.
Yeah.
So it
stop.
just got him, and he you know, he couldn't, he'd just gone too far over that thing and couldn't stop. And yeah, I kind of semi-expected the phone call. In fact, I'd had a dream about it, and I dreamt that Cliff Bernstein called me up once and said, you know, Steve's passed away. I'm like, shit, what a fucked up dream. And this was before.
Yeah.
And then it actually happened, and that was really weird. But again, you know, it was.
So he wasn't in the hospital. It was just.
No, he actually
sudden.
He done what you know, the doctor, we went to see him once in a hospital. He'd kind of got, you know, messed up and everything, and then we went to see him. And it was another one of those cases. I think he broke a rib, fell over, broke a rib, or something like that. He was on painkillers, and the doctor said, you know, don't drink with that. And unfortunately, he did, and it, you know, didn't turn out well.
Yeah, but the music lives on. His legacy is
Absolutely.
on vinyl and CDs, and you play his music every night.
Yes,
know,
absolutely.
So. But tell us about Vivian Campbell. Obviously, we loved the Dio records, and next thing you know, Vivian, you know, fits in. How did that, you know, fill that gap, and what does Vivian mean to the band?
I was adamant, you know, you can't replace Steve. You know, it's like you can't, and you don't replace a family member. Yeah. You know, it's like. So we had to think hard about that, because I actually didn't. I was debating whether I even to carry on, because it was just the gang had been disrupted. It wasn't the same. So Joe talked me off the ledge there and he said, look, we've written all these songs with Steve. We put out Adrenalize. It was just, we done it as a 4-piece, but we'd written the songs with Steve, so he was on it. You know, he was part of that whole thing, and it just, again, you know, we waited for a while, like a year, and we didn't do auditions. We actually invited maybe 5 people down at different times that we thought would fit us personality-wise. You know, anyone can play guitar. Yeah. Not everyone can sing, and not everyone can fit in with a band. So we just needed someone who was British mainly. You know, that was one of the things that we really wanted to do. And then Viv come down, and that was, it just felt normal. It was weird, actually. It kind of it didn't feel alien, and that's how we knew. It wasn't like, okay, can you play this? You know, because, you know, whatever it was, I could teach him how to play it. I could show him what to do and all that. And so it was a matter of just feeling that feeling. So we got that feeling, and Viv came in, and it was great. And then he brought other stuff with him. You know, we really worked on the vocal thing. You know, he's a great singer, and he had this voice. He actually does the parts that Mutt Lang does on the record. Wow. So Viv done that, and all of a sudden we started getting this blend, this chemistry with our vocals. Mainly me, Sav, and Vivian, because Joe would sing over the top or counter, and then sometimes sing with us. But it turned into this, almost like a spiritual, this sound that was this chemistry, and that's hard to explain. And we got that, and all of a sudden we had this new instrument in the band. We had it on the records, you know, we multi-tracked like hell, and you know, Mutt had done tons of stuff with us, and he's the best singer out of the lot of us, easy, you know, without a doubt. And me and Joe and Sav, we all learned to sing from Mutt. So when you get this new thing, that's pretty exciting. So that Viv really brought something special there, and then we just worked on that, and you know, like I said, it felt right. Yeah.
Well, I know you guys have done, you know, so many amazing world tours, so many classic records, and I saw you guys with Heart down here at the Irvine Meadows, right up the street here, and of course, the big tour last year with Kiss, the big co-headline tour, and now I see you going out with Whitesnake and Black Star Riders, you know, big UK tour. Just saw Whitesnake 2 nights ago here in Beverly Hills.
Really?
Yeah. The Saban, amazing.
Wow.
The band, Joel Hoekstra, everybody is on fire. It's going to be an amazing tour. And of course, we're all rooting for Black Star Riders. Ricky Warwick, Scott Gorham, the Thin Lizzy, Spirit Alive. How do you anticipate that tour?
Well, we just played with them in Europe, so Black Star Riders, they're great. You know, I love Ricky. We've done so many tours with him. He was just part of our band.
Right.
He'd travel on the bus with us. So it's just great to see him, you know, take on that Thin Lizzy thing and keep that alive, absolutely. And the fact that he's actually Irish, he's actually from Northern Ireland and moved to Glasgow, then moved back and has a weird accent, and he just kept that thing going. And it's just great to see Scott playing again, and then all kind of. So that was cool. David is just wonderful. You know, he's actually singing on the Delta Deep album.
Is he right?
Yeah. So So that was pretty special, and that was great. You know, and the fact that we actually got to make a record together.
Yeah. Well, we know rock and roll keeps us all young because we have that teenage spirit forever. We're the same age, and you know, I personally capped it at about 18. I said, you know, the spirit I have as a teenager, I'm going to hold dear in my heart. Obviously, you have.
Yeah.
You know, what is it about? And obviously, your bandmates have. What is it about that specialness of those teenage years that just are so important to the rest of your life?
Well, that's when you find out who you are. You know, you leave school, you're under your parents' guidance, if you're lucky, you know, because a lot of people don't have that. But you know, we were, and then you're set out on the world to discover yourself. So that's the moment, you know, the 14, 15, they're real formative years. They're very, you know, discovering the Bowie thing and the Deep Purple and all that, and you know, even the type of girls you like. It all stems from around there, and that's why it sticks with you, and that's why it's it's almost like a comfort food in one respect, and lots of other things. It's like where you made the transition from being a boy to a man, really, or almost, you know.
But yeah, we see some of our other mates from school that didn't have that, and they get old and gray real quick.
Absolutely, yes.
Go to a high school reunion, you barely recognize anybody.
I know, yeah.
But in the music business, David Coverdale or Joe Elliott, we're all still teenagers for life.
Yes, yeah.
You know, that's a very special moment. And I'm sure you notice in the Def Leppard crowd, the younger generation out there too.
Yeah,
people our age and their kids.
Well, we played in Lithuania just the other week, and I didn't see anyone over 18. And they sung every word, you know, they're Lithuanian, for God's sake, and they're singing. They were just such a brilliant audience. There was a few of these ones out there that really stood out. Prague was another one. Sweden Rocks in you know, just outside. Actually, it's not near Stockholm. It's kind of out in the boonies, but it was just great. Wow,
it's very special. Now I know, obviously, you grew up with so many of these great players that loved the blues. You know, you did the Jeff Beck tribute. I talked to all the big, you know, British artists, and so much of the love goes back to that American blues music, which rock and roll was born out of, rhythm and blues, you know. And some of these guys are still alive. Like I say, we just missed B.B. King, but, you know, obviously Chuck Berry and Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis, and of course, you know, some of these other blues guys are still with us, and people keeping that alive. Talk about your love for America, both the music that comes from here and, you know, why you've chosen to live here.
You may have noticed we sing with an American accent, as does Mick Jagger. And see, we don't speak like that, but it's because we learn our music from American music. So you know, my wife's African American, and half the band Delta Deep's, you know, African American. Yeah. So it's and there's a whole different thing there. You know, it's actually blues was born out of spiritual gospel, and before that, you know, singing in the fields, slavery, you know, and just the suffering that went on with that. And it was a release, if you like, from that. So that's how it started off. So there's elements of that, you know, and I grew up, I just loved that, you know. I heard it when I heard Aretha Franklin sing, and not just blues players, but, you know, that was still blues. Yeah, James Brown, you know, you'd hear that, and you'd hear stuff in Stevie Wonder. And these are all second, third generation. Yeah. My wife, actually, that lady over there, Hattie, the black lady there, that's her grandmother, who brought my wife home from the hospital, gave her a name, raised her but she just passed away just a couple of months ago. She was working in a cotton field at 5 years old, and this was after slavery was abolished and all that stuff. So amazing story. She was just amazing. You know, I just loved her.
She was like Mississippi or Alabama or Georgia,
North Carolina. Yeah, that's where she was from. So just great stories and everything.
Yeah.
So you know that the music came from that, and you heard the suffering. Even in someone who was someone like Ella Fitzgerald, who had just this magical voice, there's still something else in there, and you recognise that. And I recognise it in the playing. Like I said, you know, the James Brown, Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, anything like that, but also the playing, you know, like B.B. King and Shuggie Otis, Buddy Guy, a lot of those guys, you know, that's where it come from. When it went Delta Blues to Chicago, it was basically plugging it in, making it electric. And then I heard my version from Jimmy Page, Jimi Hendrix, Ritchie Blackmore. They were blues players, really, that just turned it up.
Yeah, Clapton, all that.
Yeah, so it was a different thing. So I could feel that. And then, you know, when we started doing the Delta Deep stuff, you know, when we heard Debbie sing, you know, she sung at our wedding, and she's just been singing since she was 2 years old. She's 62 now, and she'd sung with Luther Vandross and toured with Michael Bublé and done lots of stuff. But when we got going, it just was a totally different thing, and it was like, oh shit, this is that thing that I've been missing for years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're so busy with Def Leppard, but to recharge the batteries, you did Man Rays, of course, with Paul Cook from the Pistols and Simon from Girl. What does Delta Deep do for you? You know, as far as spiritually, or, you know, recharge those batteries?
It's getting something out. You know, I started playing guitar as a tool of expression. You know, art in general. A lot of people, they don't realise why they do it, but they write poetry, they paint, they do something destructive even, or they do something musically, and it comes out. It's because you can't really deal with something, or kind of, you get confused. Like when you're turning into a teenager, a lot of kids get teenage angst and stuff. I didn't really have that. I had a valve, and that was the music, that was the guitar. Yeah. And I didn't really want to be subtle with it. I wanted to make it scream and cry, absolutely. And it was a form of release. So, you know, again, just going back to that blues thing, when you really hear it, you really hear the pain and suffering. That's why I'm not really that fond of some of the blues stuff I hear these days. You know, new stuff is none of that there. It's just a blues style or something. But, you know, some of the really sweaty funk and soul and a lot of that stuff is relevant, and you actually you notice that release in that. So that's really what we're doing with the Delta Deep thing, and it's just great to get it out. You know?
So Debbie's the singer.
Yeah.
Tell us how you got the other players. Who else is in the band?
Well, we started writing. Me, Helen, and Debbie started writing the songs together, and again they took on a different thing. You know, me and Debbie done a couple of. We'd done a charity event, played acoustic. We'd go around. People would go. We played in someone's front room, just playing old Motown songs and acoustic. And they go, "Wow, where can we buy this?" And we're like, "It's just us goofing around." So we started writing songs, and then all of a sudden, some of these songs had a theme. You know, my wife Helen, 2 of her brothers were killed, murdered actually, with gun violence. You know, and then Debbie lost a son in Baltimore 2 years ago. Someone shot him in the street, and he was a sound engineer. He was actually working at Morgan State University doing sound and everything. He was on his way to work, and someone took him out like 6 in the morning. So that was awful. So that is reflected in some of the writing. You know, it comes out. You know, the song "Whiskey" is pretty much, it's about her son. You know, and so it's a great way to get all of these issues and stuff out. So. That's how we started. It was just the 3 of us writing the songs, and then Forrest Robinson, who I used to know, he played in INDIEPOWER. That's where I met him, and used to do sessions. Played with TLC, done a lot of these things, and plays in the Crusaders, the jazz band, Joe Sullivan, the Crusaders. He's amazing, and I just reconnected with him a couple of years ago, and I played him a demo, and he went, "Oh my God, I've got to play on this." Yeah. So. He was the drummer, so And then a friend of mine, Chris Epton, said, "Do you know Robert DeLay?" I said, "I know of him and I love him. I love STP and he's just badass bass player. But we've never met." He introduced me, played him the stuff, and he's like, "Whoa, I'm totally in." And then when they put their stuff on it, it just took it somewhere else. And when we play live, it's just crazy. It's something very different to I've ever done before, and something I've always imagined doing. It's just letting all that stuff out.
So it enables you to paint with some other colors.
Absolutely.
And feel another part of your soul.
But the primary colours, the stuff that people say, "Well, do you play different when you?" And it's like, no, it's just that the structure's different. In Def Leppard, I'm not going to start playing one of these kind of wild solos over a vocal part or a melody or something or a groove. You be conscious of what you're writing and what you're creating there. But with Delta Deep, it's a lot more expression. It's a lot more primal, and you just let it out. So even the guitar playing is just way different. It's not. It's exactly the same. I use the same gear. I use the same guitars. Yeah. It's the same player. I sing. Same deal. But the expression's different.
Amazing. And Robert lives out here?
Yeah, he's up in Palos Verdes.
Fantastic. Yeah. And the new Def Leppard album, any hints, any ideas? What are you most proud of achieving in the songwriting and the playing on that?
I think we had no restrictions on it. We had no
record label over the shoulder.
No executive. No one saying, "Well, we got a single. We need some fillers. We need this type of song." No one telling us anything. We went in to record an EP or maybe one song, single, and wrote 12. And we had there wasn't one point when someone said, "Well, I'm not crazy about that. Perhaps we should try it like this." We just went with it, and the songs are so diverse. Wow. They're the loudest guitars that we've ever done. Mm-hmm. They're the most over-the-top vocals. They make a Queen album sound like American Idol a cappella. It's crazy. And then other songs sound like top 40. So it's really diverse. Each song we've done as a separate project. Very much like, back in the day, the Stones, they'd write a song, or Wild Horses and Brown Sugar, they were still writing Brown Sugar while they were recording it. But they went in, done that, it came out, so it was great. We done that with this. It was like, instead of like writing songs, what we're going to do next, it was like, when you got the idea, then you do it. And some of the stuff we played live in a studio together, which was, again, we haven't done that for years.
Spontaneity.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Now, all that you've seen through your years in the business, and I know the business side is constantly evolving now, but what advice do you give to the young musician, the young band today? Obviously, there's a lot of dedication and perseverance is needed. None of this stuff happens overnight, but what other advice do you give to them as far as, really taking chances and finding their own style? And
you've got to understand, no one gives a fuck about you when you start, or the only time that anyone will have any interest in you, and this is in life in general, is when they can get something from you. So, and usually for free, whether that's a band trying to get someone trying to use a band or something, or a person in a relationship or whatever. So you've got to be aware of that. I don't think people are willing to work hard enough. If I was starting a new band and I had a bit of time on my hands, even when I come home, literally we played. We done Monterrey, Mexico last year. The next morning, we played at 12 o'clock at night. The next day, I was singing a song "Treat You Like Candy" on here. We just got back from Finland. Next day, I'm rehearsing here with Delta Deep. You got to do that. You got to, play at the opening of a letter. You got to play acoustic. You got to play electric. You got to get your stuff out there. And people just don't do that. They're not prepared to put that hard work in. Yeah. Also, people say, "Well, how come you guys are still around?" It's because we do that. We put that hard work in and put that effort in.
It shows in the show, it shows in the records.
Yeah, and a lot of people just think it's going to happen.
Without that, it would just tail off.
Yeah. So it's the effort, and it's with everything,
It's an extraordinary effort it takes.
Yeah.
Really extraordinary.
If I was starting a band right now, on the spare time when I couldn't be rehearsing with the guys, I'd take an acoustic, I'd go and busk in the train station, I'd play my songs out there, I'd do open mics, I'd do 2-person acoustic open mics, I'd rehearse with the band, I'd play in the street with the band. I've seen bands do that. And that's how you get noticed. You just keep hammering away, and you keep hitting away until someone says, you know, we think. I'll give you a great example. It's a bit of a weird analogy, but Julia Roberts, who's one of the highest paid female actresses, you know, female actors in the world, went for 4 years without going to auditions, and pretty much every day without getting one call back. I mean, not even, we'd like to see you again on that. Nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. And then she gets, what, I think Mystic Pizza or something, and then she gets, you know, it builds up, and then Pretty Woman, and then it's completely changes.
Yeah.
So she was working her ass off.
Could have quit at any
Absolutely.
point.
But she didn't, and good thing she didn't. So it's that's the mentality you got to have, and you got to do that. Keep recording, keep writing songs, keep getting better, you know, kind of streamlining stuff, making things better. Sing, if you play in a band, even if you're the drummer, sing, do harmonies, just everything, and then something will happen.
Yeah. So it's the total immersion in what you're doing, and the fact that every day you should be growing in every way possible.
Absolutely. And that is inspiring. People go, aren't you exhausted? And it's like, no, I get inspiration overrides exhaustion.
Yeah.
So if you can get inspired and you can be inspired, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Well, you've seen the world, you've played in front of millions of people. Besides Delta Deep, what's on the bucket list? What's on the wish list? What does Phil want to do that he hasn't done?
I've pretty much done everything that I had set out to do, and more, you know, and been to everywhere I kind of wanted to go. But it changes. The landscape keeps changing, you know, constantly. So you know you've got to. You just got to protect your family. You got to have a good. You've got to enjoy yourself as well. You know, if you don't enjoy it, then don't do it. You know, but I love what I do, and it's I can't wait to get out there. You know, I can't wait till this new album comes out. I can't wait till the Delta Deep album comes out, and I'm really looking forward to the gig. So it's stuff like that all the time. You know,
Enjoy every part of it.
Yeah.
Phil, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's great.
Appreciate it.